Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Boxing is doing pretty good right now, isn't it? A lot of good things going on in boxing, a lot of undisputed matches, a lot of unifications. But this is really the season of the unification. And in the light heavyweight division, we're getting a little bit closer to that. Where Artur Beterbiev and Joe Smith Jr. are going to be getting it on, man. And I'm glad to see that happening. They're going to be fighting on June 18th. And it is going to be a very good fight. If you aren't familiar with who Beterbiev is and who Joe Smith Jr. is, you need to get up to speed real quick. Real quick. These guys are going to be fighting for the WBC, IBF, and WBO belts. And what you have in these two fighters are some serious punchers, serious knockout artists. So both of them have agreed to a deal, and I'm surprised that they actually made that deal. But obviously, everybody, like I said, it's the season of unification, seasons of the undisputed title. Title distinction, man, and everybody wants that. Everybody wants to be the champion, the undisputed champion. And these guys are going to be getting it on at the Hulu Theater in Madison Square Garden. And when it comes to Beterbiev, he right now is ESPN's #1 light heavyweight. And he's the only unified champion in the light heavyweight division. You have himself, who has 2 titles. You have Dmitry Bivol, who has a title, and then his opponent, Joe Smith Jr. And we all know what happened with Bivol on May 7th when he faced Canelo Alvarez. Now, what was happening is Canelo Alvarez, he had us all believing that he was going to get into the ring with Bivol, clip Bivol, and then Alvarez, and his plans were to go after Beterbiev and Joe Smith Jr. At least that's what he said. He wanted to become the undisputed champion in the light heavyweight division. And, you know, that was a pretty lofty goal. It proved that it probably will never come to fruition because, you know, sometimes some people are just too big for you. And when you have a great small man, and I'm not saying Canelo's a small man, but then you have a great big man, more than likely, the great big man beats the great small man. Now, if you have a great small man and a so-so big man, there's a good chance that the great small man can move up and weight and clip him. But that's not what happened with Bivol and Alvarez. Bivol just, you know, like we've covered before, and for those of you who saw the fights on, Bivol found a way to win, and he took it out the hands of the judges. He didn't knock Canelo out. But his decision win was so convincing that they had to give him the decision. Like, they tried to rob him, but they had to give him the decision. It's like this weekend with Devin Haney. They were trying to rob Devin Haney. That 116-112 scorecard is crap. But there were 2 of them scored like that. Really horrible. But bottom line is, Devin Haney, like Bivol, made it impossible for them to rob him. And they were going to try to rob him. It's horrible. But anyway, Beterbiev and Smith, this fight that they're in is really high stakes, and it's going to promise to pay a lot of attention to this match and what's going on in the future, because these are 2 of the sport's most dangerous punchers. You got to understand what Beterbiev, this guy is 17-0 with 17 knockouts. He has a 100% KO ratio. That's crazy. He's going in there banging with Smith. And you got to understand what Smith is. 28 wins, 3 losses, 22 KOs. So he's got some power too. Now, Beterbiev is fighting out of Canada. Joe Smith's out of Long Island, New York. But you just got to take a look at, understand with a guy like Beterbiev who hasn't lost a fight, and he's won all his fights by KO. That means there's something special in his hands. Now, he did get into a fight recently with Marcus Brown, and Beterbiev took a really bad gash to his forehead. I don't know if you guys saw what happened when it was Marcus Brown, when he fought oh man, the guy from Sweden, Badu Jack. There was a clash of heads, and Badu Jack had this like huge gash in the middle of his forehead. Well, a very similar thing happened between Beterbiev and Marcus Brown. But that's when Beterbiev went back to the corner and was like, nah. He became angry. He took it personal what happened with Marcus Brown. Because, I don't care. Accidents happen, but that type of headbutt in two different fights, that, I don't know. I'm just saying, for that's almost the exact same thing that happened with two different opponents. Makes you wonder. But anyway, Beterbiev came back and he stopped him. He stopped Marcus Brown. Now, I'm not saying Marcus Brown is impossible. He's impossible to be stopped because we saw Pascal had a lot of success in that fight against him, didn't he? But when you're in there with a guy, like I said, 17 fights, 17 KOs, who's mean as hell and can hit, if you can't get him out of there, man, and he has conditioning out of this world, you're gonna be in trouble. And Beterbiev can box, he can punch, he can fight inside, outside. He fights in all the different boxing styles: boxer, puncher, the brawler, the swarmer, the puncher, the pure boxer. He can do it all, and that's what makes him so amazing. But he's a mean person. Now we talk about Joe Smith Jr. He is probably, out of probably all the fighters, all weight divisions, but especially the light heavyweights. But I'm gonna say in all weight division, he's probably the most improved fighter. He took a loss to Dimitri Bivol. Then he came back and got his jaw broken by Sullivan Barrera. And since then, he's rebuilt it. He went back, got his stuff together. He's come back with four really good wins. And he is strong. If you guys don't know who Joe Smith is, he's the guy who knocked Bernard Hopkins, out the ring and into retirement. So that was a fight where people felt it was high risk for Bernard Hopkins because they knew Joe Smith Jr. could hit. They knew he could punch. But you still felt that Bernard Hopkins would somehow kind of, turn into that alien that we all kind of labeled him as. It would be able to pull off the fight, but it just didn't happen that way. Not at all. But we're going to see how this fight goes. I'm going to be honest with you. Joe Smith has shown that he can get buzzed. But Joe Smith has shown that when it gets tough in that ring, he fights back. This is going to be one of those fights where you got to go with the guy who has 17 knockouts and 17 wins, 100% KO ratio. And I'm not saying Beterbiev has been in with the lesser opposition. What I'm saying is Beterbiev is one of those guys who he doesn't know how to lose. And he's going up against Joe Smith as a guy who's used to finding a way to win. That's two different things. Someone who doesn't know how to lose and someone who's used to finding a way to win. That's not the same thing. The guy who doesn't know how to lose doesn't even think about finding a way to win. He thinks about going and destroying you. The guy who's all about finding a way to win is like, all right, I could find myself in trouble at some point in this fight. And I'm going to have to know what to do and when to do it. And to be able to find a way to continue doing it so I can get across that finish line or possibly even get a knockout. Two different mindsets. One is not even thinking about the possibly being in a position where they're the underdog or they're going to be at some kind of disadvantage because they know they have 12 rounds. They're thinking they're going to get you. The other person's more thinking, I may get in trouble. I don't want to go through a loss again, but I'm going to trust my training, trust my corner, trust the strategy, and we're just going to take it round by round. And the other person's in there. He's just thinking it's just a matter of time. And when you get those mentalities, it's going to make for a good fight because I'm anticipating Beterbiev being the aggressor, coming forward and letting them shots go. And I'm anticipating Joe Smith to kind of be a bit more cautious. Maybe look for opportunities to counter. Maybe even get clipped a little bit for being too tentative early in the fight and potentially get behind the scorecards. But probably around round 3 or 4, we're going to see him say, all right, I need to find a way to win now. And you got the aggressor coming now to the reactionary fighter. And that's where you're going to get like that chemical combustion. You're going to get a serious reaction in that ring. And that's where we're all going to be, at the edge of our seats. Because once the leather really starts flying, when the two of these guys are in the center of the ring, that's when we're going to see what I think is going to be magic. And to be honest with you, it's kind of hard to really pick somebody, but I'm going to go ahead and pick Beterbiev. And I'm going with him because he doesn't know how to lose. And this man has 17 wins, and all of them by KO. I'm not saying that's going to be the case here, but I'm going to go ahead and say, you know what, I'm going to predict that he's going to be able to pull it off. And Joe Smith is going to, I think, be a bit too tentative early because that's a bit intimidating. Getting in the ring with somebody who's knocked out all of their opponents, someone who's vicious and just doesn't care, and who's is in outstanding condition. And Joe Smith, you got to respect him. The guy is the common man. You know what I'm saying? Was out there working, blue collar type worker, man. Still has a tree trimming business, and out there likes to cut grass and just get his hands dirty. Boxing is just something that he picked up. Got lucky at age 17, 18, and met a guy who was a former Golden Gloves boxer in New York. His father was supposed to go pro. I'm talking about his trainer, the trainer's father. Trainer's father had a heart attack or something. His trainer didn't want anything to do with boxing after the loss of his dad. Saw Joe Smith Jr. in the gym around 17 or 18. Decided to work with him. Told him I could make you into a champion. Has only trained one fighter. And it was something he saw in Joe Smith Jr. and was able to take him all the way and get him a championship. Amazing story. But although I like the story, it's heartfelt, I'm still going to go with Beterbiev to clip him. Now, going forward, once Beterbiev gets that strap, the WBO strap off of Joe Smith Jr., when we got to see what Bival's going to do. Because it's just Bival's the only one out there with a WBA title. And is he going to come together? I mean, this is the season. If this fight's in June, we should be able to get an undisputed unification later this year with the light heavyweights. But we know Canelo Alvarez gets through Triple G. He may want to fight Bivol again. Who knows? And Bival's going to go where the money's at. But I really think in this undisputed distinction, unfortunately for the light heavyweight division, the names aren't really bubbling that much. Us diehard boxing fans, we know who Bivol is. We know who Joe Smith Jr. is. We know who Beterbiev is. But really, outside of the diehard boxing fans, not many people are really paying attention to Bivol and these two guys about to fight. Bivol got a lot of attention because Canelo, but before that, not many people paid attention to him. Now a lot of people know who he is because he beat Canelo, but these two guys who are about to fight here, Smith and Beterbiev, not many people are really paying this any attention outside of diehard boxing fans. Well, that's my opinion. But if I go and talk to somebody, if I'm at Costco or Sam's and we start talking boxing, they don't know who the hell I'm talking about. If I say Bivol, they still don't know who I'm talking about. Like, he's the guy who just beat Canelo. Oh, that guy. But they still don't know who he is. You see, so they're not household names yet. But even if, depending on who wins, going into an undisputed distinction with Canelo, I mean, with Bivol, I'm still not sure there's a lot of money in that fight because not many people know these guys. They don't really have signature names, that could generate the type of money like Spence and Crawford, Haney Kambosos. That was in Australia. They both made good money, but I think Smith, the winner of Smith and Beterbiev going against Bivol, I think they'll make less money than Haney and Kambosos made. They would have to put this fight in the right place to really, look at ticket sales, the gate, pay-per-view, if they're going to try to do it on pay-per-view. But who the hell is going to buy a top-ranked pay-per-view to watch these two fights? So, like I said, it's great that they're going that direction, but it's just unfortunate because I just don't think there's much money behind it. But I do think getting that undisputed distinction at light heavyweight would be great. But I personally think Bivol would beat both of these guys, honestly. I really do. I think Bivol clips both of them. And Bivol already beat, I think, Joe Smith Jr. So, yeah, he already beat Joe Smith Jr. But if he has to fight him again in an undisputed fight, Bivol just outboxes both of these guys. Bivol is just, he's special. And I'm not saying these two guys are great, but Bivol's special. So I think once the dust settles in the heavyweight division, I think Bivol comes out on top. But right now, we have to see what happens with Smith Jr. and Beterbiev. But I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. That's my prediction, man. I think the Russian or the Russian-Canadian wins the fight. And then hopefully we'll get him against Bivol, which is interesting because it's two Russians. And let them get it busy. Now, if they fight over in Russia, which I doubt that's going to happen with everything going on, but maybe we can put them somewhere where they can get the support they need, get the turnout they need, and for these guys to get some handsome paydays. But I have no control over that, okay? Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Shout out to all the veterans. Y'all keep safe. I appreciate the support. And as always, I'm in the breeze.